It's ready to go too, so just bear with me. Matter of fact, why don't we start out while I'm pulling it up, just kind of introducing myself, or not myself, introducing me. I'm Nate Robinson. Currently work in the Mid-American Conference, and I'll be trying to help Kendal and Scott and everybody else with the presentation today. So bear with me.
I am Kendal Smith. I currently work in the Mid-American Conference as a deep wing, and I thank all of you for being here this morning.
Yep, same. Scott MacDonald, Mid-American Conference. Happy to be here today, and look forward to learning along with everybody else. And hopefully we have an interactive group, small group. So please feel free to ask questions as we go along. This clinic is for you as well as it is for us. So let's all work on getting better today.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Randolph. I am a deep wing in the Mid-American Conference. I am the communications liaison for today. So if you have any questions or there are any comments that you would like to make, please input them into the chat, and I will be sure that your question gets answered by our host.
I think you want to go to present, Nate. I think it's under view. There you go. Got it. So here we go. MDFOC, field judge, side judge. You can go to the next slide, please. So during the pregame, we want to discuss our coverages with our back judge and line of scrimmage. And so we know that as the field judge or side judge, our primary responsibility is the outside receiver on your side. And then once the ball is into the air, we go to a zone. But what we're thinking about when we talk about coverages is, to me, the biggest point is how you cover catch, no catch between yourself and the back judge and yourself and the line of scrimmage official. And that conversation needs to take place prior to the game starting. So I always say, and you guys can add to this if you feel necessary, but I always feel that it's important to come in strong if you have positive or negative information. So if you come in, if you know whether it's a catch or no catch, you're coming in and you're killing the clock if it's a catch or giving a catch signal. If you don't have it as a catch, you're coming in strong with an incomplete pass signal. But then there's always also the situation where you won't know. And what do you do in that situation? My opinion, if I'm not sure, because there are going to be times where you will not have a look. And if I'm not sure, I'm running in closing the distance between myself and whoever it is and getting eye contact. Not necessarily if it's between myself and the back judge, I'm not running and closing the distance. But if it's between myself and the side judge, I mean in the short wing, I am definitely going to get eye contact and close that distance before I make a signal, if I make a signal at all at that point. That said, we got a few plays that demonstrate what this conversation or the positive impact this conversation can have on the field if you have this conversation prior to the game. Nate, can you pull up those plays, please? Are you there, Nate?
I am there. I am. Just hang out 1 second.
I got you. Can you go to the big screen? I mean, can you make it?
Yes, and I'm getting there. I'm just trying to get to the firm. Almost there, babe.
I'm sorry, I'm not being impatient.
No, you're not.
So we have a series of plays here in which, in this particular season, I happen to be supplemental. So I was working with a different crew every year, but this game, this short wing and I had 3 tight sideline catches during the game. And you see what our communication was like between us as when we officiated these plays.
Come on.
That ain't play, bro.
Yard line to get Sam Sloman to do what he does.
You say it's not the play?
No, Dominic was saying that's not play that you're pressing.
Possession for Brett Gabbert, the freshman. He'll take a shot, fire it deep. What a tremendous grab.
So on this particular play, I have him inbounds with a completed catch, and you see that I come up strong with my stop the clock. I had a good view of what had occurred during the play.
All right. You want me to stay here or move forward?
No, sir. Please move forward to the next play.
All right.
Robinson, he hauled that in with.
You want the next play or another view?
Next play is fine.
All right. Just give me 1 second. All right, you want to tell us where you're on this one?
You can just let it play.
Okay.
It's still another. It's just a iteration of the conversation we had prior to the game to be able to communicate with one another.
So in this case, you want to tell us where you're going to be, or just let the play play? We'll see you as the play.
Green.
I believe on this side, I'm still at this first half. I'm still at the bottom of the screen.
Gabbert just one of his last 8. Now that throw is going to be hauled in. That's an NFL type throw, folks, as he hit his wide receiver, Jalen Walker. Walker, the first catch of the day, the best route runner they have, according to Chuck Martin. You know, Miami just.
So again, another tight sideline catch. And I have definitely information on this, and I come up with a solid stop the clock signal. Now, the last play that you're going to see, which is going to be, will be on the opposite side, is the second half. I was not sure of this catch on the field. So if you notice, I'm just running in and making eye contact with the short wing because I did not have the look of the foot, whether it was down or not.
Very, very well as Kent State starting quarterback this year. Having a lot of tough time against this Miami D. Now Crum again, keeping a play alive. And finally, we got a throw. And that ball is caught.
If you look, I'm just running in. I'm not giving it a signal because I was not sure what we had.
And finally, we got a throw. And that ball is caught.
So is there anything you could share that maybe we could do better to maybe try to get a view? Is it what you're looking at? Maybe another, was this your key?
The play had broken down.
Yep.
So at that point, we're at a zone, but I think it was just between where the defender was and having the foot. I just could not get a look because it's his right foot, which is closer to the short wing. Sometimes you're just not going to get a look. I don't think there's anything look. As I'm closing, I don't notice. I notice that I'm not at the edge of the white, at the back edge of the white. But I don't think that there. If you look at where the defender is right now, I just can't see through it. Right. So that being the case, I didn't have the look, and that's why you're depending on the short wing at that point. That's why you had that communication, and we just have to go with what he has.
Nate, can you pull up the coach? Well, I don't want you to do it. Pull up the next view, the coach's tape. It might show a little bit better, Kendall. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
And that ball is caught. Wow.
Just hit the that. Yep, the next one to the left.
Keeping the play alive and then in script.
There you go.
So yeah, I'm still back at the edge of the white at that point. I just don't have the look.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
Mm-hmm.
But while we're here, do you mind if we go back, starting over, looking at one of the things maybe with this view, just kind of giving what we would do pre-snap, you know, what our keys are, what we're looking at, being just from your position, regardless of which side of the field we would be on.
Okay, so for me, this is a bunch, and this is something that, so I'm waiting for the receivers to be clear when they come out of that bunch formation at the snap. So whatever, whichever receiver comes deep is who I'd be taking. And that's who you'd be taking as a deep wing. I don't want to speak to what other positions would do during this situation, but maybe you can, Dominique, can you speak what the back judge would be taking?
Yeah, taking that bunch right there, taking the head, well, probably looking inside because nobody's pressed here. So looking inside to that tackle on the trip side and reading the play. I don't know what the down and distance is. It looks like something in long. I don't know if it's first or second and long versus third and long. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about switching it up.
I wasn't. Just trying to back it up a little bit to see if we could see, but what would be something we do different if he was pressed?
If you're pressed, you would be refereeing the defense. So as they start to move, I'm gonna probably pick up the guy who went widest.
Yeah, hey Nate.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go back to the beginning.
Oh, yes.
This is the last thing I'm gonna say today, and I'm gonna log off, and I won't say anything else. But the question was too, if this guy were pressed, what would we do? And we would have three sets of, if this front receiver were pressed, we would have three sets of eyes on the front guy. The deep wing, line of scrimmage, and back judge would key off that guy, and that guy would determine who we all cover. So if that guy comes out hard, it comes at the deep wing will stay with him. So three sets of eyes go on the first guy and let them declare.
That ain't the last time you talking.
Yes, it is. I'm about to leave. I'm about to leave right now.
And so you're sticking with the outside man right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
But then it at the point that the ball goes in the air, because the play kind of breaks down. Quarterback is scrambling, and then we're just like in a zone at that point.
Got it. And then what would be your responsibility once that man's inside the other team's bench? If he was inside the other team's bench?
If he's inside the other team's bench, I'm running to get him out.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Kendall, when you met up with your short wing, was there any verbal communication between you two?
No, not at all, because he has a catch. He's got the positive information, and we're going with that call.
Okay.
Good question. The only time there would be a conversation is if I had conflicting information. But if he's made a solid ruling and I don't have anything, I'm just staying where I am and going with his ruling. Now, if we were both confused on the way there, then there would be some conversation at that point. Can we go back to the PowerPoint, please, Nate?
Yes, sir. Just trying to minimize my screen.
Hit escape.
While he does that, just to add a point to what is something that Dom and for those that attended the sideline, working the sideline breakout, something that Dominic and Patrick discussed was, these are plays that you discuss in during the week prior to your game, so you can establish good communication, and you and your line of scrimmage official can understand when you have plays like this based on the look and based on the type of catch and who has access to what part, the feet and the ball, who's going to make a determination on that particular play. As Kendall stated, he did not have the view, so he's not going to make a ruling. The only thing he can help with, if something different than what the calling official makes, and that's, again, as he stated, something conflicting. If you know for a fact there's a fumble or a muff and then a catch after the receiver stepped out of bounds and it's conflicting with the line of scrimmage official, that's when he comes in. Or you saw the receiver stepped out on his own prior to that catch, and you have the line of scrimmage official ruling catch, that's where you want to step in and say, hey, I got this. Other than that, you let the calling official make that call.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we see the screen, but we're still looking at the video as opposed to looking at the PowerPoint.
Man, I think it's just my computer skills.
If you
we'll do this for a
there
second.
you go. Well, you went.
I got you.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So more conversation about that. Wait.
I think we're
can you go back a slide? Because we're
Sure
out
can.
at that point yet.
Yeah, I can.
Just use your arrow. Remember your arrows.
I did. I think that's why I said I was trying to think it's Nate's computer. Might be old.
So also during the pregame, going to check the field markings and pylons. Nate, you could expound upon that a little bit?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Checking the field markings and pylons. What do you do in the pregame as far as checking the field markings and pylons?
Well, a lot of times I notice that the pylons are not even up. A lot of times the pre-games, the different teams are practicing in those areas, so they'll move the pylons even completely off the field. So I definitely want to make sure that they're set in the right spot. I definitely try to walk around and try to use that as well as kind of somewhat getting a little bit loose. So I may jog between, up on the sidelines from one end to the other. And then I'm going to make sure all my pylons are in the right spot. I want to make sure my pylons that are underneath the goalposts, we normally move them off the field. Off the end line and move them back about 3 yards. Normally with the turf, there's not too many field problems that we have. The markings are pretty much set. Wouldn't be too much we can do. But it is something that I definitely incorporate in my pregame.
Something else that I would like to lift right now is to make sure that you don't have any obstructions in your way, because, and I don't know how many things are on high school football fields, but when you get around the goal line area, you need more distance. And if there's something that's in your way, we often have advertising boards that are in our way. You need to move them back off of the limit line so you have room to be able to work in that area freely.
To go along with that, Kendall, though, one of the things I would recommend or suggest is to own the field. Once you take the field, to own the field. So a lot of times you may have media. Kendall's right. We have media all up and down the sidelines. And I just want to move all of that out of the way. I want to make sure that I'm comfortable in whatever room that I need to be able to work with no obstruction. Or even falling down. One of the last things you want to do is be on TV and everybody sees you falling over something, looking silly, even if you do get to play right. That's happened too. but I definitely try to own the field. I think another thing that I try to do in pregame is I walk through and simulate some of the toughest situations that I feel I may have, which usually are in the end zone, the corner of the end zone, the side of the end zone, because I know at that point, sometimes anxiety is high, as well as I know I need to take my time and be a little slower. We always use the saying here, or I've always grown up with touchdowns are forever. So I walk through getting my footwork from the goal line to maybe 6 or 7 yards in the end zone if I ever have to come off that. I also go out and work with the teams. When I see those receivers, I'm watching the receivers. I'm trying to prepare, as Kendal had that play on the sidelines. I'll go and work on the sidelines when they're doing their sideline catches with them and try to go over and just try to get my eyes and my feet real comfortable and prepared for the game that's going to be in front of me. A catch 10 to 15 yards down the field is real easy. The one on the sidelines are the ones you want to be ready for and anticipate. So I try to think of things that are going to be challenging or a little more high anxiety. And that's one of the things I really try to prepare for on the field pregame. I make use of my on field pregame as best I can.
Mm-hmm. So in our pregame, we're also going to meet the ball boys for each team, get their names, because it makes it easier for you to locate them on the bench. I'm telling them that I would like them to work because we're 24 yards apart between us and the short wing. I'm telling the ball boys that I'd like them right in the middle of 12 yards, and that most of the balls are going to come back through me. The only time that a ball is going to come in through the short wing is if there's a long pass play and I run downfield, then the short wing will get it. But for the most part, balls are going to come in through us as the deep wing. Make sure you're patient when you're getting that ball. Make sure you can play. And the players are headed back to their respective benches or sidelines or sides of the of a scrimmage line before you get you a new ball. And you're also going to inform that you're looking to get a ball for him, change possession, kickoffs, and punts. Also, prior to the game, we're going to meet the game clock operator, discuss clock mechanics. Any official can stop the clock, preferably only the covering official. We're going to find out which coach from the home team you can communicate with in case there's a need to make a game clock adjustment. And then both the field judge and side judge meet and get the name of the get back coach on your sideline. Biggest screen.
You know, another big point when you talk about meeting and getting names, I found it very helpful to get I know we call him the get back coach, but I like to talk to the offensive coordinator or whoever's calling plays or allowing the players to come on the field as we change possessions. Mm-hmm. I've had several injuries in my past, and that's the last thing I want to do. You heard John Perry talk about it this morning. You know, I'm one play away from not being able to work. I'm real big on when that play is over, whether it's a free kick or a punt, I stress I need you to hold these players until I have a spot. If I'm not able to get a spot and I bump into somebody, then it's not going to be a good result. And so I am big on that. And I also carry that into the game. It's a reminder once the game starts and I know that we have a free kick or I know we have a scrimmage kick and I'm coming up that sideline. I emphasize that again because those players are big. We all know how big they are these days, high school and college. And when they're coming onto the field, we normally have our backs to them and they're wearing full equipment. It takes nothing for one of those guys to knock me over. And that's not going to be a good experience for the team if that happens. You know, they may get away with it once, but I can promise you it won't happen a second time. So I try to kill that in the pregame as well and have that conversation when there isn't that anxiety or that stress that they're enduring during the game. And I've tended to have I won't say much, but I've had a lot more success than I've had over the years since I started doing that.
Can we go to the next slide, please?
Before you guys go, just to add to that, another good reason to get the name of the offensive coordinator is for on change of possessions, especially on a kickoff or a punt. If you have a touchback, they're going to be the ones to let you know where they want the ball for position. So it's really good to get that in pregame. Make sure your line of scrimmage and the deep wing know who they are. That way, as if on a kickoff, as that line of scrimmage official is getting their spot for the touchback, there you can help as a deep wing by finding out where they want the ball position. You just get on your 0-2-0, you pass that communication over, and it doesn't even look like we lost a step along the way.
Exactly. Okay, so now we're moving forward to kickoff mechanics. You always want to position yourself to the inside and the back of the white on your sideline. Down put in the chat, you want to own the white from the very beginning of the game. And we are responsible for the receiving team's restraining line, which would be 45. B players are lined up behind the restraining line before the kick.
Hey, I'm sorry. Hold on, Kendall. One more time. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. Remember, this is most of high school.
I told you the last time it wasn't the last thing you was gonna say, so stop saying that.
This is high school mechanics, so they kick off from a different spot than we do.
Oh yeah. Are we
So
kicking
just
off?
say they kick from the they kick from the 40.
From the 40, yeah. Okay. So again, you're responsible for the receiving team's restraining line, which would be 50 at that point. Thank you. B players are lined up behind the restraining line before the kick. A does not block before clearing B's restraining line or the ball becomes legal. And the ball clears B's restraining line before A can legally touch the ball. Always keep a beanbag in your hand in preparation for an onside kick. I am going to say that I was in a session with Wags this past weekend. I'm going to refute that. We did not always have a beanbag in our hands for preparation for an onside kick. If you obvious onside kick situation, yes, for sure. But just every kick to have a beanbag in your hand is not necessarily necessary, but you do want a beanbag any touching by the kicking team that doesn't travel beyond B's restraining line. And A can legally touch the ball if the ball touches a B player before 10 yards or after it touches the player, the ground, or an official after B's restraining line. Can we go to the video, please, Nate? Okay, so Scott, can you talk about what you are doing in this kickoff formation?
Yeah, this looks like looks like a standard kickoff here, meaning we don't have the line of scrimmage official leapfrogging us up. So if we're looking at the bottom of the screen for side judge, great initial placement, like Kendall and Nate were talking about, heels on the back of the white right there. We're going to kind of make sure if the ball's kicked, make sure it doesn't come off the tee prior to it being kicked. If it does at any point, we can shut that down. Rarity that it happens, but we're responsible for that ball coming off the tee. And the big thing after that happens, I know we have a mix of different mechanics and folks on this call with experience level. is the main thing is don't be in a rush to move, right? Just after that ball's kicked legally, let those kicking players clear your face. So again, I know the mechanics are different for high school in Michigan from where the ball's kicked off, but in this case, it's at the 35, we're at the 45. We let that entire kicking team, with the exception of the kicker, clear our face. And then we'll do a basically like a short jog about 10 yards downfield. And if you think about it, we're responsible and mechanics here for really that outside lane. So from where the numbers are out to the sideline, that's going to be our focus, but the play is going to dictate that as it goes on. But that's kind of what we're thinking at the kick. And the only other thing I would say, Kendall, here is, you have to be responsible for what's on the game clock, right? So we just had some type of play. It was a dead clock. In our conference, we have the ability to use a O2O, which means official to official. So we can communicate in an earpiece. I say that well before this ball's kicked, what time is on the game clock, so everybody on the crew understands what that time is. Any questions on that, or anything anyone else wants to expand upon?
I think that was a very thorough explanation. The only thing I would add to that is that after the players have cleared you and you've taken your brisk jog about 10 yards down, I would say that you want to be set up and in position before the players start to move with the football. So make sure you get to a spot rather quickly. There's another point that I was going to make, but I lost it. You might also want to have reminders that you're doing with your cross-field official, like no low blocks during kicks. Might want to make sure you had that reminder for your partners.
Yeah, and the last thing I'm saying here, Kendall, everybody has a different, we're going to get into pre-snap, later on in the presentation, but I think most officials would agree you need a pre-snap for all different types of plays. And if you don't have one yet for free kicks, it's something maybe you can take that away from today and try to work on. So what does that mean when I say something like that? Well, let's say hypothetically that Buffalo was at the bottom of the screen where the side judge is, okay? Let's say we just flipped them over there. So if I'm on that side and Buffalo's a kicking team, right, I'm basically saying blue can advance in my head. Blue can advance because blue's in the kicking team. It's really easy for people to get confused on kicking and receiving team, right? So use what works for you. But I'm saying as a side judge here, blue can advance, white blocks. It's not always, but usually the return team is where we have a block in the back, a hold, and I'm saying blue options. The reason I'm saying blue options, if Buffalo was behind me as a side judge, Nicole mentioned it earlier, if we have a free kick out of bounds, let's say this is the beginning of the game, we have to be mentally prepared right away. And we're going to turn to the head coach and we're going to give them two options, right? So if you're not using a pre-snap checklist as a deep wing on a kickoff, it's something you might want to consider. What I use works for me. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you. If it does, great, but something to think about. And Kendall and Nate, I don't know if you guys do anything differently, or Nicole or Dominique, if anything you do.
I think you covered it pretty well. Nate, can we press play? Go ahead, you can let it play, Nate. Can you go to the next play? Next formation. think this is the same one.
Hey, after you go your 10 yards and set up, then what are you looking at? Or what are you looking for? What area are you covering?
So after the ball goes 10 yards, I am in my side zone from the numbers out, as Scott reiterated. And it just depends. If the ball is kicked to my side, I'm going to be looking for blocks. And if the ball is kicked to the other side, I'm going to be looking at the backside of the play for those blocks and action on the backside of the play.
So you're going down 10 yards, setting up and looking for the first point of contact, basically?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you.
If you notice from this play, in this play, we have had a penalty on this play, and we're kicking from the 20 as opposed to the 35 where we would normally kick. And we're set up the exact same. Notice the difference between where the deep wings are set up as opposed to we're set up appropriately at the back of the white. And that's where everybody on this call wants to be, is at the back of the white. Not up here in front of the white like the short wing, well, the back judge and umpire, back judge and umpire are set up at this point. You let the play roll, Nate. Then they both backed off to the edge of the white, which is good. So if you notice, players cross, boy, that jumped a lot.
Sorry about that.
Like I said, if you notice, players cross, and then the short wings release. So you're still going the same 10 yards regardless of where the ball is kicked from.
And if you notice at the bottom of the screen, look at those coaches in the white. Get them out of your way. I tell coaches, I said, look, I'm not gonna come back in your zone. Please don't come up here in the white. This is mine. I promise you. I go, look, I promise you, at no point today will I be in the coach's box. I'm gonna give you every opportunity so you can work. So please return that favor to me so that I can work. And then I also tell them, look, I tell everybody on the field this. My boss is at home watching. I don't want him calling me because you're in the white. If he calls me, I want him to call me because of something that I really screwed up today.
I think can you hear me?
Yes.
I think another part of this that we hadn't covered yet, I think it's important to do a count. I was always trained to count everybody, all 22, because the last thing we want to do is not start this play with everybody. So we have enough time normally because we're normally coming from a timeout. The other thing is to notice where he's kicking the ball from, the position on the field where the ball is being kicked. As was pointed out, word for word or quote unquote the other day, they're going to use this sideline as another defender. So right now, we have somewhat of a pre-snap or pre-kick idea that they're going to kick in that direction. And that's exactly what they did.
Very good point.
Yeah, good point, Nate, Doug.
So then, can you stop it right there? You should.
Is this a good spot or you want me to go back a little bit?
Can you go back a little bit more? I would like to go at like when the blocks begin to occur.
All right.
So you can stop it right when he catches the ball. So he catches the ball about right there. Your first point of attack, if you're at the bottom of the screen, you'd be looking at these guys, like the first person who's going to be threatened, you're doing a good job of pointing at Nate, is the first person who's going to be threatened. I mean, you see this block, but this is going to be your point of attack to me that I would be looking for. It's up in that area. And then I don't know how well we do it, but it's important that because he got a decent return out of this. also important that you keep your cushion as the play begins to come towards you. Go ahead, you can let it roll, Nate.
All right.
So those blocks and mesh points is what we're looking for at that point.
Uh-oh. Next play, right?
Yes, sir.
I'll back up one more, please, Nate.
One play or
Just go to the prior screen, or unless this is the first view. Oh, okay, this might be the first view. Okay, bud. So yeah, I'll just set the stage, right? So this is opening night last year, certainly with the pandemic. You can pause it if you don't mind, Nate.
yes.
With the pandemic last year, we got a late start. Thrilled that we had any season at all, but this is opening to midweek Maction for those who aren't familiar with that. That's the weekday games in the Mid-American Conference. So, 0-0, 15 minutes on the clock, and this is the opening game of the season. So, people usually say, oh, well, I need to get, to that first timeout. I need to get to the first media play. I need to get to the first touchdown to get my bearings and knock the rust off. Well, this kind of shows you we have to be ready and have to know what we're going to do before this play happens. So go ahead and hit play, please, Nate. One of the officials in this game was also on here. If you wouldn't mind replaying that, Nate, and we'll just break it down a little bit mechanically. And he was ready from play one. Because what we have here is we have an onside kick, and we just went through some of that. It's a surprise onside kick, and if you just slow it up right when it's kicked there, please, Nate, the best that you can. Looks like we have offside on the kicking team here. So we have an alert official right there, looking right down the pike. 15 minutes on the game clock. This is it. Toe meets ball, and we're ready to go. And if you let this continue, right? Now we have the ball. We already went through it. Kendal broke it down a little bit with some of the rules. The ball is going to go 10 yards, right? It's going to go beyond the 45 here. And then we're going to have the ball touched. Legal, correct? Everyone would agree. By the kicking team, they could recover but not advance because it's still a kick. Certainly the receiving team could recover it and jump on the ball as well. The play ends up where we have what's deemed a legal recovery by the kicking team. The ball went more than 10 yards, but we have a foul on the play. So we have offside on the kicking team. So we had to really slow down here. Talk about, coming in and figuring out what we have. You can see the flag there at the bottom of the screen, appropriately thrown by the back judge. And then we come in to figure out who has the ball. We properly wind the clock on a legal touch. So we don't know everything's going on, but we know the ball is beyond 10 yards. And if it's touched legally, which it was, we need to take a second or two off the game clock, which we did. But we now have to enforce the penalty, which is offside on the kicking team. They recovered the ball, so we have to go back 5 yards and re-kick. So, it might seem routine as we break some of these plays down, but, it's a lot different when you're involved in these games and you have to really go through these things. So any questions on that? Depender, Nate, Kendal, Nicole, anyone, certainly not just the presenters. Any comments on how others have officiated a surprise onside kick or anything they want to talk about?
The only thing I wanted to bring up was the clock, because
So
go ahead, Nicole. Go ahead, Nicole.
okay, so yeah, there was a couple things to decipher between the two levels of
Uh-oh.
Are you still speaking, Nicole? Because I can't hear you.
Sorry, yeah, okay, yeah, it came back. I'm sorry, I lost you guys for a second. So it's important to know the two levels of play that we have here. So for college, Scott is he's on point. Opening play, kickoff, you have a legal touch, so you're gonna start the clock. And the most important thing is finishing the play. Whatever you do, do not move. Stay stationary as long as you possibly can. The more stationary you are, your eyes are stable and you can see exactly what it is that you need to see. You need to make sure that touch is beyond 10. You need to make sure you're aware of any blocks or any block in the bags, that something that impedes another player's opportunity to retrieve the ball, what's legal, what's not legal. And also understand, as Scott said earlier, knowing the time on the clock, so that way if you do have to wind it, the entire crew knows that time came off the clock. Now for high school, an offsides on a free kick is dead. It's a dead ball foul. So you're not going to have all of that additional action. Once that back judge or umpire rules offsides, it's ruled dead right away.
Good correction, Nicole.
Good
Thank
point.
you for highlighting that as well. Hey, Reggie Berry, I know you're on mute. Just if you're able to maybe tell us a little bit about what you had as the back judge on this play to educate the group, that would be tremendous.
Scott?
Yes.
Scott, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
We can't hear you anymore, Reggie.
Maybe if Reggie comes back, we'll get that broken down. I don't want to hold it up, but it was a great call.
So I got a question. So what happens? So we know this is 15 minutes in the opening kickoff. So if it was high school, it'd be 12 minutes. What happens if we're at the 9:48 minute mark of the game? We just kicked the field an extra point. So at the 9:48 and there's an onside kick. How do you determine, or how do you know if the clock started or did not start? If the ball is legally touched.
Honestly, after every touchdown, I write the time down on my card.
You need to be aware for sure to write the time down, take a look before and after the play to see if it matches what's on your time card.
I agree. That's where I was going with it. That's exactly what I do. After every score, I write down the time as well, so that when something happens, I just pull my card out right quick, take a quick peek, and just to make sure we lost 1 second, or if we didn't lose a second, go in and let the referee know, hey, that clock didn't start.
Yeah, it just looks really polished to G. Will's point there. And, I mean, we can get this, we'll sort it all out. Certainly, let's make sure we get this call correctly. Who has the ball? What's the foul? We can have the, referee, if proper in the game, if we have a microphone, they can make the announcement, take time off. If there's no referee with a microphone, we can still get time taken off. But it's about that concentration, that mental focus we were talking about. And I think it's critical that, we don't have the ability to necessarily get settled. You have to, get comfortable being uncomfortable. This is the opening kickoff, whether it's high school or Pop Warner or college, it doesn't matter. This is a great play. It just wasn't designed effectively where there was a foul, but a great play and a great momentum builder. But unfortunately, we had to bring it back.
Okay, can we move to the next slide in the PowerPoint, Nate?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Because we're an hour into it and we got a lot of information still to cover.
Sorry, guys, it's Reggie Berry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We're gonna talk about that play Scott talked about real fast. It was the first play of the game. And basically I reached out of my kicking zone. I supposed to have the front kicking K players on my side of the ball. That other, I would say L1, he was so far offside that I had to throw my flag on that play. And when you do that, you got to be 100% sure when you drop your flag as a back judge. And what I was trying to say, it was the umpire's key also, but I reached to the other side because I feel it was advantage, disadvantage. And that K player got a very advantage trying to get that K ball with the onside kick, and they did recover the football. So we had to drop the flag on that one.
I'm glad you did.
Thanks, Reggie.
Yeah, and just to add to what Reggie said, a lot of times, and we've all been told this during high school and little league, fishing your own pond, don't come out of your own pond. But sometimes you have to go out of your pond, because sometimes if it's something where you know that there's going to be some plays that you'll see throughout the day that where a deep wing might have to go to the middle of the field to get something. It could be a kickoff, and the play is going away from the deep wing, and everybody's attention is going that way, and it may be something on the backside that you have to go get. So you get out of the habit of fishing. Don't fish in my pond. Now, I'm not saying if you're the line of scrimmage guy, we'll just use this for example. If the line of scrimmage guy, he's not going all the way to the other side to get a false start or something, unless it's just egregious that guy missed it. But the point is, yeah, the foul may not be on your key, but sometimes it may be your secondary, and you can go out and help. I'm done for the day. I'm serious this time.
Whatever.
Guys, for what it's worth, I don't know if you guys all know, but Reggie just got promoted to the Big Ten, right? He was a back judge for years. So, and I get it, right? This is a professional business kind of call, but the fact that he's on this call as a participant, moving to the deep wing position, says a lot about him, and says a lot about his willingness, right, to jump out there and save the crew on a crew saving call like this, right, on the other side of the field, which wasn't his primary responsibility. So again, it's situations like this and kind of humility that we bring to the table, like Reggie brings to the table, that speaks to the official that he is, and that speaks to, we need a lot more officials that are like that, to continue to pay it forward, so to speak. So Reg, I just, appreciate you as a human being and just being out here. So thanks for doing that, man.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate that.
Can we go to the next slide, Nate? While we're waiting, are there any questions from the people who are here from the general population? Are there anything we've discussed so far? Okay.
Keep moving.
Yes, sir.
What slide are you wanting, Kendall? We're on pre-snap.
I believe so. I can't see it. I'm still looking at the play. So,
Guys, while they're changing gears here, the biggest thing I think, and there's rule differences between high school and college, the most important thing I think we need to take away from these discussions, and Kendall and the gang, they're doing a phenomenal job here. We usually make mistakes when we violate principles, being mechanics or philosophies, right? The understanding of what our bosses want called. So if we can stay mechanically sound, principally sound, as well as understand the philosophy, we limit the amount of mistakes that we'll make. Rules are going to be different. That's a given. We need to know the rules, but principles and philosophies are what's really going to carry us.
Point on.
Are you there? Is it showing up properly?
Yeah, we can
yep,
see.
I'm here. So we got pre-snap. Make sure you finish the play. Dead ball officiate as you're finishing up your play. You need to be aware of the clock. Is it running or is it stopped? You have offensive substitutes for your sideline. You need to be aware of that and give the iron cross every time. And you're holding that iron cross out until the referee recognizes you and picks up the sub. I'm yelling sub verbally or audibly so that everybody knows that I have subs. Get the ball exchange if needed. Again, that is the last thing you're gonna do. You can't play without a football, so just take your time when you're doing that and make sure you, the players either back to their sidelines or hit it back to their side of the ball. Know the down and distance. Get your count as early as possible and confirm with the back judge and the opposite deep wing official. Your formations, identify your keys, read the formation for a run or a pass, read and react, get the man in the zone and in the ball. You must have a football IQ. You got to know the time, score, and plays, and dead ball official. Do you have plays to go with these slides or no? I can't recall.
We had 2 with pre-snap clock, Kendall.
Okay, thank you. Can you go to those players, please? Nate?
If there's something that I've recently added to my pre-snap routine. It's something new that has been added to the NCAA ruling, and that's the 5-yard belt for low blocks. So I make sure I know where my line of scrimmage official is, and we communicate the yard line. So that way I know 5 yards from there, we can have legal low blocks 10 to 2. Anything beyond 5 is a foul by either team. And then that 1 yard belt for blocking on pass plays.
Very good point, Nicole. You definitely need to know 5 yards and 1 yard.
Just to reiterate, there is no low blocking in high school football.
You guys just bear with me. There's so many different screens I have going on right now. Give it a shit.
We see your screen. I think it is.
It was Buffalo Akron.
Yeah, so it's play 9.
You want to set up anything or want me to go ahead and run it through first?
Just run it through, please.
I want to apologize. We only had the one play. The one on the list is actually a duplicate of this one play that we had.
Okay. That's no problem.
Okay.
No problem.
I believe this is a play in which we lost about 30 seconds on this play. And as a matter of fact, I know that's what it is. And I was calling up to, and here's the thing, at a high school level, we don't have this luxury, but I was calling up to replay to ask them what the time should have been, and replay did not answer. So I knew that there was some time that should have been added, and I added some time. I think my referee decided that he wasn't going to add as much time. And
What's the actual scenario? What actually took place, Kendall? Like what led up to that?
I'm trying to remember the previous play. Maybe it's after the play. So yeah, I can't recall the play that preceded, but the clock should have been stopped. So the clock should have been stopped, and maybe it's after this play, it was a first down. The clock should have been stopped. The clock was not stopped, and like I said, we had about 30 seconds go off that shouldn't have. That shouldn't have gone off. And again, we did not get help from up top. And to reiterate the importance of being clock aware. And I knew the clock should have stopped. I looked up and the clock was running and did not get any help from anybody else. And we initially, we put time on the clock, but we got dinged from the office because there were 20 more seconds that should have been added.
Yeah, the question is, I guess, how does that happen? And here's the real teaching point. Like, how do we avoid that from happening again in the next time we work?
In your part of your pre-snap, you should be looking up at the clock as the play ends, when the play goes to your sideline. And as John Perry said, there's not a specific time that you have to look every time, but you should be clock aware after every play.
I think another helpful factor in which we all do this anyway, regardless of what level you work, at some point you have to talk about the clock in the pregame or in your pregame and make sure that everybody is aware of it and make everyone accountable. No one person should be, even though we make primary our side judge is the primary clock guy, he's not really the primary. We're all primary when it comes to the clock. So in reality, we're all responsible for this clock, and more than one person should have identified that amount of time was being lost.
That's the point, because we all fell together on that play. And when they wrote it up in quick ref, everybody got dinged.
Mhm.
Everybody, not just the deep wings.
I'm going to move to the next one or next
Yeah, we can go.
next play. Well, we don't have another play. We can just be
Right.
a record.
So let's go to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
Scott, you want to take the lead on this?
Yeah, sure. So just going back to some, mechanics that we were talking about, positioning on the sideline for the deep wings. You're going to be 22 to 24 yards off from the line of scrimmage. We're talking about, when we talk about keys, that's going to be when we look at our initial key at the snap for, field judge, side judge, the widest receiver. If there's no receiver to your side, it would be the tight end. I think D. Pender brought up a good point when he looks at his pre-snap, depending on if the defender is pressed against the offensive player or not, if there's space between them several yards, then we would say they're not pressed. You can't reach out and touch them, so to speak, or bench press. So you can take a look inside to see the tackle. And if the tackle moves back, then, usually that's an indicator that it could be a pass play. It doesn't mean that it always is, but you can do different things depending on what type of formation you're given. So I think we maybe for time efficiency, we can just kind of move forward a little bit. Maybe next slide.
Oh, sure.
Unless there are any questions on mechanics or formation of where to line up.
The only thing I would say is when I was with Wags this past weekend, he said, throw out 22, make sure you're 24. Because that's why we don't read plays well enough. We get a tendency to be able to try to get out of there because we're at 22 as opposed to being 24.
Yeah, distance is your friend, like we've heard a couple times today.
No question.
No exception here, Kendall. I agree with you. Another thing we can work out in pregame, 24 is 24. And then it only changes, as you can see here, when we go into the red zone. Kendall or Nate, if one of you guys want to take this one.
So from the 25 to the 17-yard line, official's going to be in the goal line at the back of the white. And that would be with we never brought this up, but with your buckle facing your receiver. From the 17 to the 7-yard line, official's going to be at the goal line and the 6-yard back at the limit line, right? And then from 7 to the goal line, you're going to be angled 3 yards from the corner to the end line. Must be able to officiate the end line and sideline. And that said, you're going to change your position on that pylon based on the formation of the offense. And if the receiver is inside the numbers, this is pre-snap. The receiver is inside of the numbers, then you would be taking a position behind, so you can referee the sideline. If the receiver is outside the numbers, then you take a position in which you can referee the end line. Okay. Stay with your key longer, especially on pass plays. OPI and DPI are huge in this area of the field. In the pregame, you discuss what you're going to do with trips, bunches, and stacks, formations with the back judge and the line of scrimmage officials. On the goal line, when pass plays threaten the back third of the end line, up the goal line to the. This is when the goal line is not threatened.
I think we got a couple plays here too, Nate. We might have jumped ahead, but maybe we can go into the red zone plays because I'm sure this might create some conversation amongst the group.
All right. One of the things I want to share with everybody while I'm changing screens is please make sure you're reading the comment section. There's some good information being shared there as well.
I think we got
Kent State, Ohio is the one.
Kent State, Ohio, yeah.
It's just so many plays, and then y'all switched up on me. Y'all know I'm
we did, man.
Y'all know I'm slow.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. Appreciate your effort.
Oh man, I needed to do this.
We're just jumping around to just mix it up a little bit, Nate. So this play here, just real quickly, you can see we're inside the 25. So, that falls back to our red zone mechanics. This would be non-press coverage here at the bottom of the screen. So we'll just let the play roll out. Right now, deep wings. We're at the goal line, plenty of cushion there for us, and we shouldn't have to really move unless the deep last third of the end zone threatens. So you can play it, please, Nate.
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
Be careful on that bottom saying that that's not pressed because that guy's going to be on him pretty quick. So when in doubt, I would make him pressed.
That's fine. Understood. Good correction. Yeah. If in doubt, if you think that he's close enough, make it press. You got to watch it either way. I wouldn't be sneaking in to look at the tackle here. Deep ender. I agree with you.
Another thing I would suggest, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because I have gotten in trouble about this quite a bit. And maybe I'm saying more. I won't say quite a bit, but this guy is not in his position yet. Even though this play is not started yet, I would say it's imperative to do everything you can to be at or at the place where you need to be and not moving during the play. Because if you watch when the play starts, he's still not there. Not trying to talk about anyone, just trying to bring up something to be aware of. So I'll go back and run it again.
Yeah, so right here, we know the goal line's not threatened as a deep wing, but we know that the area that's going to be threatened is the end line. So you have to come off that goal line because the back judge is working. He's in great position there. He's looking right down the end line, but we need to assist. In this case, with the feet, we need the feet prior to the ball. So it's a different mechanic to get used to if you haven't done it yet. But if that deep third of the end zone is threatened, you have to come off the goal line and work your way down towards that end line. In this case, back judge and the deep wing work it out, and we have a touchdown. Any questions, comments on that, or are we good to move forward to the next red zone play?
Just real quick to reinforce, when I was sharing it pregame, how this is some of the things that I go over. This is exactly what I'm talking about, coming off that goal line and then making sure that I also stop and look at that other official. Don't get ahead of yourself. That touchdown will be there forever.
If you could back it up, please, Nate, just one more play in the red zone here. You know,
This play here.
yeah, just go, if you can bring it back and just freeze it at the snap with a pause. Just kind of want to break this down just real quickly. So we talked about this and everyone's kind of saying the same thing, that once we get down in the red zone, it's a really compressed area. And Nate had already said the touchdowns are forever. So when we're going through our pre-snap checklist here, this is one that I think mechanically we might have been able to officiate a little bit better. You know, I think Kendall mentioned at the beginning, we're down in the red zone. When you look at where the numbers are on this play, they're giving us an indication potentially of information that could help us. And if they're inside the numbers, which this receiver, it might be number 15 is right now, that would be the deep wing on the bottom's primary key there. Generally, they're going to run that type of fade route to the back corner. If the receiver, it doesn't mean always, it just means they're giving us an indication of what potentially could happen. If that receiver was on the outside of those numbers, he's beyond the 10 going towards the sideline. Certainly they could run a corner or fade route there, but generally it's an indicator that they're going to be more going to the inside. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? Anyone else have any opinions on that?
Thank you. That's a very good clarification. And so what I was saying about the way you should line up, at this point, you should be lining up so that you can take a look at the sideline, because he's typically going to go towards the sideline and you have a better look at that sideline.
Yep.
And then if he's outside of the numbers, he would run, as you said, more of a curl pattern, and he would be threatening more in line.
So that's just something to think about when you're back there. You know, after we get the clock, we get the count, we're going our keys. You know, and this is fast paced. You know, they want to go quickly down in the red zone, whether it's high school or college, doesn't matter. So it's another thing that we could just kind of pick up. So just wanted to chat about that. Nate, you can play it through and then we'll just break it down. So we have two players going, right? And they're going to the back side there. In a perfect world, if we could go back to this, where the receiver is indicating that they're going to be running the fade route to the corner, the deep wings positioning, if you're able to get back to it, Nate, the deep wings positioning could have been more favorable if they were backing up and giving themselves space. We actually swung to the wrong side to give ourselves the view here. That's why we had to kind of look back and double check with the line of scrimmage official, because they're looking right down the sideline. We did get this play correctly, right? And this is an airborne receiver going to the ground. So I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but we're over on this side here. I think the deep wing would be more favorable being backwards here. And he's got everything in front of him and he's already looking down to the line judge. And then it's just making sure the receiver survives the ground, nod to the L. They both have a player in bounds, and then turn around with the hips and swivel touchdown. So we get it correctly, but like we talked about, if we're being critical about ourselves, mechanically, I think we could have just handled this better with some positioning and eliminating movement. Any thoughts on that?
I think you're exactly right. We could have set up, and you can't see it, but you should have set up so that you'd be looking at the sideline as opposed to looking at the end line.
Yep.
Hey, Nate, could you back it up just a little bit? I was just trying to see which line was threatened. Was it the sideline or the back line?
It was both.
Right.
He was going right at the pylon.
That's a terrible situation to be in right there, because you don't know which way to go.
I was gonna say it's a bad situation to be in 100%, because you have both threatened. But
yeah,
9 times out of, well, for the sake of the conversation that I had with Wags last week, you prefer to set up on the so you can see the sideline, and that should again be a pre-snap adjustment. It shouldn't be on the fly. You should be making that choice as they're lining up.
Kendall, to your point, right, in your conversation with Wags, I know he talks a lot about playing the percentages. Initially, where would we start here? Scott, like where did you start on this play? Did you start on the 45? Did you start sideline extended? Where and why, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, good question, Depender. So I was almost like straddled like almost splitting the distance of the end line and sideline about 3 feet back. So almost right around there where it's paused, right? And I think it was mainly because I didn't pick up that he was inside the numbers, and I should have started a little bit more to my right behind that pylon, looking directly up the sideline.
To your point, right? This is one of those plays, even with playing the odds. If you started, say you didn't read that initial start, and Kendall hit on this earlier, right? With the receiver lining up inside the numbers, the only place he's going to beat us is on an out route, on a fade, something that's going to threaten a sideline. So if you go sideline extended, fine, fine. But if you don't, right? If you start 45, like our standard is 45 degree, pretty much where you are right now.
Yeah. Yes.
I think if we stay right there, we can officiate both lines from where we are. This is just one of those plays. I'm just like, frick. I mean, both lines are threatened. You pick your poison. You don't want to rotate either way. This is just one of those. You do the best you can, basically.
Yeah, and it just required a second. I agree with you. I think all deep wings are in that same predicament. Like, now that we've seen it, maybe, a teachable moment, right? Use plays like this to get better. I know I certainly did, and I hope you do as well. But sometimes, but you still can slow down, even if you're in that, no person's land there, and you're swiveling your hips or you're moving around. You still have to process what you have here. You still have to have a catch. You have a receiver going to the ground. You need a body part in bounds. So looking back and slowing down, the back judge is still coming from the goalpost. Line judge is looking kind of right down there as well. So it's okay to look for help. And when you're in this type of position, and then you can signal. Line judge came in. I said, I have foot. I have him surviving the ground. He said, I have the same thing. Boom, touchdown. But again, mechanically, maybe polished, we could do it a little better. So just put yourself in the official's position and think what you would do next time if you're faced with this predicament, so to speak.
I agree with everything you guys are saying. The only thing that I think is that if you were, I definitely agree that the inline and sideline are both threatened. But from a mechanic standpoint, if he was standing on the sideline, I don't think he would have had the movement with the player coming. Oh, he was standing to officiate the sideline. He wouldn't have had the movement at the end to get out of the way of the players. If he was standing behind the sideline as opposed to where he's standing, he could have just stood there and officiated the play as opposed to having to have the movement.
I have a question in that same vein, because I was agreeing with what Dominique was talking about. I liked when he was talking about like being on that 45. What would it be incorrect? I know it's easier said than done, but since we're Monday quarterbacking this one, to just take 2 steps back on staying on that 45.
Is that for me?
Anyone really?
You can take it.
Yeah, to your point, that's what they would ask us to do, because from pretty much from where he is right now, the deep wing is right now, I think you're in optimal position to officiate both lines. Yeah, you can try to play the odds and say this receiver's inside the number, so the sideline's going to threaten. I'll go sideline extended straight up in the back there. But if you get fooled, or if you got a tight end, or if you got somebody tight and you want to help on the end line, now you've kind of screwed yourself out of that position, sort of, kind of. If, to your point, if you're on that 45 with a step or 2 back, like you talked about, that's the icing on the cake, and you're mechanically sound. You don't have to move, and you're just nice and slow. And you know what? It's just a walk in the park. Nate talked about playing the play in your mind before. This is that play that's going to burn you if you don't think about it before it actually happens, and now you're trying to guess it all the way through.
Thank you.
Good question. Thanks for contributing. Certainly, I know we could break down this play a lot longer too, and it's a great discussion play. I know we have others to get to, but anything else anyone wants to add before we kind of keep things moving along? Okay, great. So I think that was so we're good on red zone. Kendall, what do you want to do? You want to go back to presentation or keep playing some of the video? What do you think the preference would be?
We can go to more video.
Okay, maybe we'll do that. Is that okay with the group? Are you folks okay with more video, less PowerPoint? Okay, sounds like a yes.
So this is going to be your punt situation starting.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Is this my play or yours?
It was, I believed it was yours.
I believe it's mine too.
We should be right here first. I apologize. 18.
So do we want to talk at all about just maybe some basic mechanics on, oh, I'm sorry, this is, oh, scratch that.
This doesn't look like a punt.
No, it doesn't.
It does not, no.
Want to go back to, you want to go to punt play or red? Oh, we should be on red zone still, shouldn't we?
Was there one other red zone play there, Nate? The one you were just on? If not, we'll go to EMU kick versus Toledo below that.
Go there.
It should be the, I think it's the next one.
Oh yeah, next play, please, Nate.
Here?
Yes.
Play 19, yes. So I know what this play is. I can guarantee you I know what this play
You want to
is.
set it up?
Yeah, but can you go back? Just pause it. Count the players. 4, 9, 10, 11 in the screen, and we know we have a deep receiver. So the point of this is making sure you get a count early and often. I remember this play vividly because I was counting. I counted, thought I had 12, went to count again, snapped the ball. The 0-2-0 of the other deep wing was not working, so wasn't able to depend on him to say, get a recount, didn't make eye contact with him, and he dropped the flag. Myself and the back judge did not drop the flag. The point of this is make sure that you get the count early enough to where you're able to be able to move properly on the play.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, you can play it. And the thing is that had he said get a recount, I'd have just dropped my flag instantly because I knew it was 12. But again, trying to count a second time, didn't drop the flag.
So while we're here, you want to give us any, talk about keys for deep wings?
Sure. So our key is going to be the outside guy to begin with. And you're going to stay with him. Sometimes he's going to go and be the direct threat, but as the play develops further, you may give up your outside guy to go to who is the immediate threat to the receiver. And you come up and you get the spot.
Yeah, where it's kicked from that hash too. Good job, deep wing. You know, it's a compressed area, so that's sometimes where you'd have, you know, a kicking team player going out of bounds, right? So as a deep wing, we'd be aware that doesn't happen here. Something to think about when you have contact towards the sideline. So just another thing to remember on scrimmage kicks.
Also, try to make sure that you are still until the player starts to run upfield.
Mm-hmm.
Keep you a good cushion. There's no hurry to get the spot. If you're within a yard or two of the spot, be fine.
I think we have one more here, Kendall.
So So 50, the first one was omitted. It was the wrong number. Remember, that was at pass play. So we have this one as Kent State EMU, Eastern Michigan, but it's a punt.
Okay. So just maybe like mechanically, you know, at the 50 for the deep wings, we're at the goal line. We're going to pick up the flight and depth of the ball, right? Just some basic preliminary mechanics. And Kendall, was this you here? Was this one of the ones about talking about illegal touching?
Go back to it. I thought that was. So no, you went back one too far.
Yep.
I would just say from pre-snap, we should be set up because we're set up at the goal line. Pre-snap, we should be on an angle behind the pylon, position-wise on an angle behind the pylon, and you should be making a determination whether or not, it's an instant determination, whether or not your sideline is threatened. And you're standing at an angle behind the pylon because it goes out over your inside shoulders, and we know we had the ball in the end zone. If it goes on your outside shoulder, we know we have it in the field of play. But again, you need to make that determination immediately after the kick, whether or not your sideline is threatened. So we realize the sideline is threatened. We go goal line extended.
Great positioning by the deep wing here. You know, already set back after that. Look, perfect angle, looking right down the pipe. Just really solid mechanics right out of the chute. It's right where you want to be. Excellent.
And then we ruled that the ball was stopped in play. We know that all he has to do is possess it. He can run into the end zone as long as he possesses it outside of the end zone. He's okay.
So OPI, ref quest video.
Yeah, it might be a good time to break it up, Nate.
You guys mind if I ask a quick just scrimmage kick question for deep wings? So another thing I've seen a couple times, and I feel like it adds to the complexity of that play, is that the return teams, when they have two, they'll double team the offense, you know, the kicking team wing or the gunner. And I've seen them on a few times drive them towards the sideline and even take them into out of bounds. But you're, you know, way down with the returner. Do you just trust your small wing to keep eyes on that? Or sorry, short wing. And then how do you guys officiate that sort of play?
Can you say the question one more time, please?
Yeah, so it wasn't in any of the videos really, but I'm just trying to bring up a scenario that I've seen a few times that makes me uncomfortable, is when the return team will have like a double team on the gunner and drive him to the sideline and even take him into the white and sometimes even in the out of bounds. And you're so far away to be able to see that action. But you have your short wing there, but they're obviously doing their thing. Like, do you just trust them to pick up that action?
You would have to. Thank you for reiterating the question. You would definitely have to trust that the short wing is going to pick up that play. If you can start with him because he starts as your key, but if they jam him up right there, there's no way you're going to stay with him. You might stay with him at the very beginning, but you have to be able, as the ball, because you got to light and depth of the ball. As the ball starts to come more towards you and the receiver is threatened, you definitely have to be refereeing that. So you're going to have to trust your short wing. It's going to pick that up.
All right,
that's something you probably want to discuss during the pregame to be certain that that's what he's doing. But you can't referee that.
Appreciate it.
This is a pre-recorded video from our conference, and it breaks down some OPI and DPI. Certainly, if there are questions, we can talk about them as well. But we thought this might be educational for the group. Nate, you get some volume on that?
I think he needs to press play.
Provide your feedback. We hope to provide some clarity.
So you can't hear it?
We can now.
Now we can.
As the ultimate goal is to provide consistency in regards to OPI and DPI. Play number 1. This first play is a good example of significant delay from the time of the contact and when the ball is released. We see the receiver at the bottom of the screen makes no attempt to avoid the defender, creating the contact in a blocking fashion. As long as the ball crosses the line of scrimmage, it does not matter where it is thrown and would be called OPI. The only exception would be if the passer is legally throwing the ball out of bounds. OPI is the proper call. Play number 2. In this play, take a look at the actions of the receiver at the bottom of the screen. Notice it's 4th down and 3. At the snap, we see the receiver immediately goes to the inside, which should get our attention. As he continues his pattern beyond the 1-yard belt, he makes no attempt to avoid the defender, isn't stationary, and sets up in a blocking posture. The ball is caught beyond the line of scrimmage. 75% of you felt this was OPI. OPI is the proper call. Play number 3. This play has created a great deal of discussion. 42% felt this is not OPI. Let's take a look at the actions of the receiver and defender at the top of the screen. The slot receiver has to go about 5 yards.
Lost the volume, bro. Did they want OPI there?
See if we can go back to that one, Dom. I think we lost, I know you said we lost the volume too.
You can't hear it either, can you?
No.
The outside. Posture. The ball is caught beyond the line of scrimmage. 75% of you felt this was OPI. OPI is the proper call. Play number 3. This play has created a great deal of discussion. 42% felt this is not OPI. Let's take a look at the actions of the receiver and defender at the top of the screen. The slot receiver has to go about 5 yards before he gets to the defender. He makes no attempt to avoid the defender as he runs his route. Meanwhile, the defender does not vary his position when the receiver initiates contact. The onus is on the receiver at this point. Once the ball is thrown to the undercutting receiver, this becomes an OPI we want called. Play number 4. Looking at this play, 87% of you felt this was OPI. Once again, we have a receiver that goes 11 plus yards to get to the defender, and he must make a decision as to direction. Here, he elects to cut to the outside, but in the process, he extends his right arm and displaces the defender as the ball is being thrown to him. This extension and displacement is what we are looking for as we officiate this mesh point. This is OPI.
Hey, Nate, pause right there.
Called.
I'm sorry to start interrupt. If you run that, I don't know if you can run it back just to the snap, that'd be fine. If not, don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, we can do it.
Just a little bit to the snap. Stop right there. So on this play right here, you know, we always talk about the deep wings. We got the widest guy, this, that, and the other. Well, on this play, it appears that the widest guy is the guy off the line of scrimmage, but that guy is not threatened. So don't get caught up with, I got the widest guy. Take the guy who is threatening. That's the first guy off the line of scrimmage. Because if you take the second guy and rely on somebody else to get the front guy, then you'll miss it. So if you got all eyes, if you're a deep wing and you're watching this front guy, you will watch him go down the field, and he clearly pushes the defender down and displaces him as he runs his route. On that last play that they were talking about, they wanted OPI. If you remember, the Illinois, you don't have to go back. The Illinois defender was just standing still, and the receiver knew what he was doing. The receiver ran straight at that guy, pushed off of him, and then proceeded to pretend like he was running a route, and it threw the ball underneath him. So that's why you want to call it an OPI on that play. When defenders are off of receivers, officiate the receiver, because the receiver knows where he wants to go. The receiver generally will go up and push off of the defender and create the space. If they're in press coverage, you officiate the defender, because the defender does not know where the receiver is going. So therefore, the defender is going to do everything he can to try to stay with the receiver. Go ahead, Nate.
And what's he gonna do, Galen, the defender, if he's in press? What types of fouls are gonna happen, and how quick are they gonna happen?
They're going to happen at line of scrimmage. He's going to grab the receiver.
Jam him to his face, something like that. Something that pisses the receiver off, that doesn't let him get into his route. Don't be surprised by those, because when they happen, if we're not thinking about it, officiating, like Galen said, defender into receiver and press coverage, and it happens, next thing you know, they're going in the huddle, and you're like, maybe I should have threw a flag there. Yeah, maybe you should have.
Exactly.
And one we want called. Play number 5. This was without a doubt the most debated play for OPI. 49% of you felt it was OPI, 49% felt it was not, and 2% felt it was DPI. No doubt a difficult play to officiate, as there is a lot going on by the 3 players. Defender number 17 has excellent position and is making an attempt to play the ball. Meanwhile, the receiver, in his attempt to get to the ball, gets tangled feet with another defender, number 27. While stumbling, he grabs and takes number 17 to the ground. Wow, a lot to sort out. We certainly understand the no call here, but this is OPI. The
Pause, Nate.
receiver are not by the
Which
Go back.
yes.
Go back just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just tell me when.
Right. When they get to the goal line,
So right
right about there. That's right there. It's good. If you guys nail this play, you are probably the best official in the country. This play is tough, because on this play, you got 2 defenders and a receiver who's caught in the middle, and they get tangled feet, and you got to figure out how they got to the ground. And if you are good enough to see that receiver pull that defender down, kudos to you. This is a tough play to officiate right here. Go ahead. Stop right here. Stop right here. Stop. So if you look at the deep wing, he's in great position. When we talk about mechanics, just make sure you're in the right place. If you miss a call and you're in the right place, your supervisor can defend you. If you miss a call and you're in the wrong spot, there's nothing he can say. Whether this official got this call right or wrong, we're not even talking about that. We're not debating, to be honest with you. Look at where he is positioned. He is in great position to whatever call he makes.
are not by.
I'm good.
I was just gonna run it back just a little bit more so it can be seen in its entirety somewhat.
Wow, a lot to sort out.
I'll put it back in regular speed.
And some of you on this call probably work back judge too. So look at the back judge's position, where he is on the end line.
We certainly understand the no call here, but this is OPI. The actions to the receiver are not by the defender playing the ball. The grab takes any opportunity for number 17 to play the ball. Play number 6. Now let's shift to some DPI plays. This will involve the defender-receiver matchup at the top of the screen. As we have said, we want to make every effort to officiate the hands. Take a look at the right hand of the defender. We can see he has a fistful of jersey for several yards. As the receiver attempts to play the ball, the defender continues with the grab and uses this to prevent the receiver from elevating. This is DPI and one we want called. Play number 7. Here is another example of officiating the hands of the defender. The defender has good initial position, but as the receiver turns back to play the ball, the defender hooks the arm of the receiver and doesn't allow both hands to get to the football. The deep wing has excellent position to see this action. This is a solid call for DPI. Play number 8. When we look at this play, we want to identify the indicators as we process the potential for a foul. We have a defender that never makes an attempt to play the ball and gets into the body of the receiver prior to the ball's arrival. Remember, if the defender never attempts to play the ball, he gets no leeway, and any contact other than a touch or feel is going to be a foul. This is DPI. Play number 9. This play is another example of not playing the ball with an added element. We can see the defender turns his head in an attempt to find the ball, but never makes an attempt to play the ball. Rather, he is into the receiver as he attempts to play the ball. As we have said, if the defender is not playing the ball, he must have perfect timing, which is not the case here. DPI is the proper call. Play number 10. In this final play involving DPI, 2/3 of you felt this was not DPI. The TV replay probably has the best look at the actions of the defender. The deep wing is in good position to see the hands and to determine if there is a grab of the left arm of the receiver or to see if the receiver is holding off the defender. In these cases, we want to make sure any grab is materially affecting the receiver or defender. We don't see that occurring here and see this is a good no call. Well, thanks to all who participated. We will create another training tape of other plays that were sent out for next week.
Any questions on the video or plays from the group?
I was gonna let Nicole speak. It brought up a few things in the chat. Are you there, Nicole?
Yeah, I'm there. There was quite a few things I put in the chat. If everyone wants to go in and
You got to mute one of those.
if everyone wants to go in.
Nicole.
Yeah, I did. My bad.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, my bad. So if you want to go into the group chat to check the notifications that I put in there, just some basic points. They talked about kick plays. We talked about as far as positioning, what you're looking for, how to work the play, and then also transitions on pass plays. You start with a man, and then based on the routes that are being ran, you transition into a zone if your initial key stays short, you're gonna end up switching with either the back judge or the line of scrimmage official, but those are things that you need to discuss prior to the game, so you guys both have an idea of who and when you're transitioning. And then once the pass is in the air, all deep wings and the back judge will be transitioning to the ball and the receiver that is anticipated to receive that pass. So that way we have the proper set of eyes that can see both sides of the receiver in case there's material restriction. The last point that I put in the chat was finishing plays, especially on DPI, OPI, and DA, defensive holding on pass plays. A lot of times you have the foul and say there's an incomplete pass. A lot of officials will not give that incomplete pass signal. They're so focused on the foul and the action that occurred that they stop officiating the play. Officiate the play. The foul isn't going anywhere. The players aren't going anywhere. Just keep that number in your head, but finish the play as it's going on, because there's a lot of other things that can occur after that action. Give your signal, and then you go on after the play is done. You go ahead and give your preliminary, and then over the 020, and if you don't have 020s, then get to your official and go ahead and make your call. But the most important thing is officiate the play, because the play isn't over until that play is ruled dead.
Nate, did you want to put up those punt plays?
That's it.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes, sir, I do. I'm actually trying to get my screen share going. And
Looks like we have about maybe 10 minutes left for the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
This first one is not a lot going on. It's more or less about just positioning, being on the goal line. We kind of discussed it a little bit earlier for the deep wings. But again, we talked earlier, recognize where they're punting from, and remember they're going to use the sideline as another defender. It just shows the position where the official placed himself and how he handled that whole situation with all the players coming at him. This one, I think, should give us a full return. I apologize not having that as a full screen. The reason we put this on here last year was to just go over. So earlier we talked about a little bit about the threats. The question from one of the participants asked about if someone's being blocked out of bounds, and they informed you definitely have to let that short wing and trust him. As you can see, this threat, the great thing about this play is the threat is here. This is the primary threat for the deep wing here below, field judge or side judge. And the coolest part is how he not only calls the foul, but he continues to officiate. And that's something we hadn't talked about all day today. He made the call, and then he continues to officiate. Because now he's got a spot. I hope I can get to the next view. Let's see if we can go back. All right. Just FYI, these particular set of plays are all about punts. So if you have a question about coverage, about where they're kicking the ball from, what you should be looking at, please feel free. These last few minutes, definitely want to make it even more interactive as we can. The uniqueness about this play, and while we put this on here, they tricked us. They're on the left hash, and they actually punt it all the way across the field to the other side. Oh my gosh. I think we talked about letting all 22 be in front of you and going forward before you really start moving. This is a long return here. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I thought something was wrong with the system.
Yeah, we heard you.
Okay, good. I don't know if it was good, but I think there's a foul on this play. I think that may be about all of mine from the punts. Kendall, Scott, Nicole, Dom, Gaylon, if you all have anything you want to add.
I think at this point, because we got about 6 minutes remaining, I think at this point it would be good to open it up to any questions that people may have. Any clarifying questions we can answer?
It's a quiet group. Sounds like our Monday meetings. Nobody wants to say anything.
I think that the presenters were so thorough because there was a wealth of information that was offered. And then it's a lot to cover and to discuss and to take in such a short period of time. But are there any questions? None?
If no questions, then I thank you guys and Nicole and gals, and we can exit this meeting and make sure you log back into the general session link that you had earlier this morning at 12:45 if there's no other questions or comments.
Scott and Nate, if y'all can stay on